Well, good to see all of you who are in person and all of you online. It's great to see everyone. I'm Brandon with First American NHD, and then Angie will go on her portion of the title. But as you guys always know, that you have multiple reps for all the different services. And why we do that is to make it as easy as possible for you. So Angie's going to talk about fraud today and really the role that you play with preventing fraud. And I was going to just mention a story where in a lot of cases, there's fraud that's happening and a lot of people are being taken advantage of. Typically, if they're not, they don't speak English very well, they're somebody who's buying or selling a home, they may not know the full process. And a lot of fraud is happening for people like that. And this one particular story, this happened a couple months ago, but an escrow officer was signing documents and getting ready to sign with a client. And the client called the escrow officer and said, "Oh, we sent the money." She said, "What do you mean you sent the money? We didn't send you the wiring instructions yet, right?" And they had sent the money to a fraudulent account. It was a scammer who had intercepted, right? And this is why escrow officers, and typically when they talk about telling your clients to make sure that they wire it to the correct and they called the escrow officer, right? Because if it was an email and it got sent, but again, this is something that's happening. In this story, in this instance, somebody was looking out for her because the money had not yet left the bank. They went to Chase, but not just Chase. They couldn't just drive to a branch and take care of this. They had to call I believe it was the accounting department and the fraud prevention, and they had to get it so that it was not sent. And by some miracle, it was stopped. But again, this story and why I'm saying this is as the agents, and especially with fraud these days, it's really on all of us to be a part of that team to make sure if something doesn't feel right and it's something that is, could potentially be fraudulent, check it, right? And this is why Angie also always says, if you're going to work with a client, go and get the prelim, go and get the information so that you're not working with a client who doesn't own the house, right? And this is another piece of the fraud, and a lot of pieces for you as the agent that it's becoming so difficult is you have to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's and making sure that the clients are the correct clients and that there's not somebody trying to take advantage of a situation. Because as we know in markets like this, fraudulent transactions, fraudulent things happen more often because this is a situation where people are taking advantage of what the market is, what we have right now.
And it's across all types of land, property, right? Not just land.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's just being aware of it, which is the key. But it's also being very vigilant with your clients and making sure communication, right? It goes back to communication. If these clients are calling escrow and confirming the wiring instructions and sending it, then there's way less fraud that's going to happen, right? The more communication, the better the communication, the less that happens. And then another thing I was going to mention too, I'm handing these out. Something on this that a lot of people don't realize or don't think about is the zip form and setting all your templates up, right? So it makes it as easy as possible for you. And that's kind of, at First American, we want to make all of the process and the transaction as easy as possible for you. So if you have questions, again, that's why we work with the other services, because there's questions on the NHD, they also cross over to title, right? Taxes, some of the liens and judgments that come up on our information works on the title side too. So it's cross-referencing a lot of that information. And the data and information that you're getting obviously is different for every company. So this is when people ask, what is the difference between all of our companies? A lot of it has to do with data. And as Angie's shown you with Ignite RE, First American invests billions of dollars in data. And the reason why is the more accurate the data, the more opportunities that you have, right? Because if you know who's more likely to sell, who's been in their home for a long time, those are the opportunities that are going to make it easier for you as you're marketing to not have to spend 10 times the amount of money to give everybody marketing, but being targeted and targeting the people who are most likely to sell. And so on the zip forms and on your RPA, you'll see that there's different drop downs. If you set it up and you want to work with us, just set it up in your templates so that you don't have to do any other problem, or you don't have to worry about it when you're going into every transaction. You know, did I select it? Did I put it in? Save your templates and save them so that you have the information on hand. And then if you do need help with the zip forms, we've gotten training on it to show you kind of where you would find the information. And that's also where I always point out that this big challenge we're having on the NHD side of the business is in the RPA, in the drop downs. What do you guys typically see when you get to the NHD? That the NHD and the wildfire disclosure is automatically checked. And remember what I said the last couple of times is that wildfire disclosure, the Fortress Fire Report, is not required. And so this is what I'm seeing the last, 6 months constantly, where it's a condo and they're ordering the fire report, the Fortress Fire Report. Well, that wasn't required and it wasn't necessary because the condo, they can't even touch the trees. So that was ordered. And it's in a lot of ways, if you're getting listings or you're on the buyer's side, it's being added in because people don't know what it is. So again, being aware of the RPA and being aware of what's in that information is just going to help you and your clients, right? Especially with the changes we're getting to the RPA, right? We're past 20 pages at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, I just printed it all out. It's this big.
Right. So it's a novel. And a part of that novel, again, is the part with the NHD, but don't forget about that wildfire disclosure. You want to make sure if it's not necessary, right? Condos, or it's not in a fire zone, counter that, right? Because save your clients that $140, you're going to have to order the NHD to make sure it's not in the fire zone. You're going to have to order the NHD because it's required by law, but the wildfire disclosure on the RPA, it just keeps being checked automatically. Yeah. And so this is where just make sure that you either counter it out or you uncheck it, right? Make sure that it's not being included unless it's necessary. And if you remember, the reasons I said it's necessary, really most important, is it in the high or very high severity zone, and can you not obtain insurance? Those are the two that you really need to make sure that you're looking at to even consider ordering that. Because if it's not in a fire zone, in those two fire zones, or you can get insurance, there's no point of getting it, really. Because why is it there? To help if you can't get insurance, to give the insurance companies a suggestion on what you could do to make the property less fire prone. And that's where you as the agent, just remember that this is when it becomes more of a challenge for us. This means that your clients really have no idea what's going on, right? Because the more it's become a challenge for us, we see this every day. These people see it once every 20 years, once every 10 years, once every 5 years, whenever they're buying or selling homes, they're seeing this process. So you as the agent, the best thing you can do is to educate your clients, right? And let them know about this type of information, because they're going to have to sign the RPAs. They're going to have to. So if you explain it well, or you rely and ask us for help, I always offer this. If your clients have questions and you don't know something, have them call me, because I'd rather give them the right answer than you maybe don't know and you don't give them correct answer. You're going to look bad, right? And we don't want that to happen. I want you to look like the rock stars at all times. And so we're here for you, right? We're a part of your team. Call us, right? And that's something that I don't think every agent necessarily utilizes affiliates to answer some of those questions, because you don't want to bother us, but that's why we're here, right? We work with this side of the business on a daily basis. So when it comes to the fraud, when it comes to the title stuff, that's why you're calling Angie for that stuff. When it comes to NHD, any of the information, fire zones, call me. If you need Sandy, you have questions with your clients, don't just tell your clients, it's all covered by home warranty, right? Because that's not always true. Have them, it'd be better for them to call Sandy and her tell them than for you to be the person that tells them all the information if you don't know it 100%. So other than that, just again, we're a resource for all of you, so we're here for you. I know that right now, when it comes to the hot time of the year, this is definitely, it's a challenge to get out there and to do stuff, but that's why we're here to help you grow your business, work with both Angie, Sandy, and myself, and we'll help you to get across the finish line. So thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Angie.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Angie Tang, First American Title. So Brandon made a good point. Why First American? So because he talked about that, I'm gonna give you some numbers, because I love numbers, because numbers don't lie. So First American's financial position as an industry leader. So we have 6.3 billion trailing of the last 12 months in revenue. And reserves is 1.3 billion. So these are reasons why you want to work for a large company, because in the event that something happens, who's there to protect you? You're gonna rely on your title insurance company. So I've told this, I've told it a couple of times, and a lot of times maybe you guys forget the little tips that I provide. So there's two different types of title companies. There's the larger ones like First American, where we underwrite our own claims, we have our own legal team, we have everything in-house. We build our own system. So Ignite RE is built by us, so the data on there, I've heard that is more accurate than Realist. This is what the realtors tell me. Not something I know, because I don't go on Realist, but they've called me and saying, hey, Angie, how come Realist says 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, but Ignite, First American Ignite profile shows the correct, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, not 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So they've always told us that our data is superb. The reason why is, like Brandon said, we keep reinvesting. So if a company is big like ours with all the numbers, our debt to capital ratio is 29.7%, investments of $8 billion, we have the strength, the stability to help with your insurance policies for your clients. Because ultimately, when something goes wrong, who do they look for? They don't know who I am. You guys, yes, and then you guys look for me. But if something happens, and let's just say you do XYZ title company, and they're like, oh, we're a broker company. You have to, it's not our file anymore. We closed it. You got to go look on your policy provider to ask them to help you with the claim. Yeah. Not so easy. It's not going to look as good for you. I'll give you an example. This happened this week. Actually, it's been 2 weeks. So last week, a client called me. He's a developer. He's doing a flip. He bought the house for First American. The property lines belong to him. There's a fence built on his property line. So he tears down the fence because he's doing a flip, right? He's trying to make the whole house nice. And then he finds out the neighbor is saying, I'm gonna sue you. This is my fence on my property. Da, 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 da. So he calls us. We show him the lot lines where everything is, and it's on his side. So he calls up me saying, Angie, what do I do? I want to have, I want to appease this neighbor. He's, threatening to sue me. Da, da, da. Like, he can kick rocks, because ultimately that fence is on your property line. So if he wants to take you to court, so be it. We will defend you in court, because it's our policy. And we hire the best attorneys, which is fantastic. So I told him, like, don't be worried. Because he's like, oh, why don't I gift him that 500 square feet? I'm like, well, if you do that, no matter what, that neighbor's still gonna be upset, because guess what? He now has to pay more in taxes. He's not gonna be happy. So either which way, you build a fence, you take out the fence, or you gift it to him, your neighbor's still gonna be upset. So the best way, file a claim to First American. See what's the best resources that they are, or what's the best explanation to resolve this issue, because what he's worried about as a developer is once that house is completed, he's gonna sell it again. And he wants to make sure that he discloses it to the new buyers that there's an issue with this buyer about this piece of land. So he's gonna file a claim, and then that's where we left off. And then the claims department takes care of it, reaches out to him, figures out with the attorneys what's the best approach, so that the next time he sells the property, there's no problems. And because it's like maybe it's a permit issue or whatnot, there could be claims that First American will help pay. Right, so we'll see how that goes, but that's the newest case. There's been a lot more claims that we've been paying out than we used to do, because most of the time nobody hears about claims. They know that there's title insurance, but they don't know how it works. So my job is to show you how title insurance works, how to not worry about fraud and be hyper alert about what to look out for. Because the more educated you guys are, the less likely you guys will have in any type of fraud or endangerment on your files, right? It's all about knowledge, communication, who you're working with, all that plays a role. It's not now, who's your bestest friend? Because ultimately, when market is challenging, you need to have the support to back you up on all your files. Because the one file goes wrong, your commission on that file, it's gonna be more than your commission, right? So there's another client, this last week, we were trying to close a transaction right before Juneteenth. So Juneteenth, the county is closed. So they wanted to record. They were like really upset that we weren't able to record right away because we needed to do our job. So as a title company, our job is to make sure that once the transfer happens, it's going to be very, very little liability on all parties, not just on title, not just on escrow, not just on, all of us play a role because we're all part of the real estate transaction. So in this case, they notarized the grant deed, but that notary was not an approved First American notary. Now, why do you think we have approved notaries? What kind of thought do you think? Why do we have to make sure we're having approved notaries? Anybody wanna guess?
What do you mean by approved notary?
So you know how there's people that notarize the documents and do
Yeah,
fingerprinting?
notary.
Okay, so we wanna have approved notaries because there's so much notary fraud.
Yeah.
Because anybody can get a notary, right? But whether or not they're doing the right thing or not is going to be something you have to check. What if that notary says, oh, I'll take $2,000 to notarize you? And they're not really, that's not really the person,
Yeah.
but they could,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know,
Yeah.
right? So that's why we have approved notaries through First American. Not only do we have approved notaries through First American, we now have the option for Ron. So I've mentioned this at your office meetings,
Yeah.
remote online notaries. So First American now has a Ron division if you need it for emergencies, because I don't want to take business from you notaries out there. But
Don't worry about that.
But just in case, if there is an emergency, your file needs to close, your clients are in Mexico, China, Russia, wherever, and they can't sign,
Yeah.
we have a First American notary. And a lot of people have asked, well, how do you do notaries without fingerprinting? Because it's Ron, it's remote online. How do you do that? So we just have KBA questions, like it's like a way we ask very, very private, personal questions. So if that person can answer those questions, then we would know that they're that person. And then we're able to sign them and get everything notarized and recorded and everything else.
How do we know if the notary is a
Us.
person?
With like Brandon said. So with any type of notaries, have a communication with your clients. Don't just pawn it off to like your escrow or your whoever, because when you pawn it off, that's when you can have a miscommunication or a delay in escrow. And we don't want that. So if you know your clients are going to say, hey, I'm gonna go to UPS to get my documents notarized, that should raise a red flag for you guys. Because then you want to verify that notary is approved or not. Because if it's not approved and we're about to close and escrow sends us all the closing docs, and we look at the notary, it's not approved. Well, now you're putting the liability on us to make sure that document and that notary is accurate, right? How are we going to verify that? So that's why we have an extra layer of of safety, right? Of our notaries. It's not because we want to make it difficult. Dude, if we don't close, I don't get paid either. I want to close, but I want to close it right. I don't want to close it where I have to say, hey, Rosa, or, somebody, Mr. Realtor, sorry, we have to go to court now, or an attorney calls you, hey, you're being subpoenaed, we need to look at your records. The last thing I want you to do is waste your time on having to defend yourself on a file that shouldn't have been closed. So when I told the realtor that, because she's in Diamond Bar, and I was like, she's like, what do you mean? Anybody can notarize a grant deed. I'm like, yeah, it's true. And that's exactly what you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Anybody can notarize a grant deed. But how do you know that that notary is a valid, approved notary? How do you know they're actually checking the ID? A few years back, I mean, this is maybe, I've been in the industry for about 20-some years, maybe about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer. First American was part of a heist for notaries. So we were actually one of the undercover people that worked with, I think it was the FBI, that did a heist on this one notary, like this person that was notarizing. So one of our like office managers was actually part of it. So they actually were they were notarizing in the car in front of a First American escrow company to sign these documents to get it reported. And I guess the FBI or whoever were following them already. And when they busted this notary guy, he opened up his trunk and there was tons of different notary
Oh my God.
names on it. And then the other thing that is a huge thing to look out for, you guys don't see this part, but when an escrow signs or if somebody is looking at documents, if the passport picture and the driver's license picture look the same, there's something wrong. Because those two identifications should never look the same, right? But we don't think about it. When we're in the middle of trying to close a transaction, we're all excited, we're in escrow, you know, you miss these little details. But those little details can cost you more than your commission to close.
Why passport picture and driver license picture?
Because not be the same day.
Yeah. And the
Right.
driver's
Yeah.
license should be a bad picture where you're having a
Yeah.
bad hair day and you're
It
smiling.
shouldn't be the same.
They should not be the same.
It's possibly the same.
It's impossible. You take the driver's license at the DMV. You
Yeah.
take the passport picture at
Oh,
a
yeah,
company-
you're right.
CVS
post
or-
office or CVS or Walgreens, and you submit your papers to that picture to your passport
picture
agency.
Is the passport picture.
Exactly.
One that-
Mhm.
Yes, driver's license is at the DMV.
So if you see the same.
Yeah. You have to question those, yeah.
Question, so, is the First American required passport because?
No, we usually don't. It's usually the notary or like escrow will see those things. But in the event, just keep in mind, like if you do see something, just keep it in the back of your head that if you see something that looks fishy, ask the question.
Yep.
Like, hey, ask your escrow, ask title, like, hey, McKeon is saying he doesn't have his driver's license, he can't find it, or, he has his driver's license, but the names are different, they did a name change. But they're trying to validate that person, because once there's a name change, they have to show like the proof of the prior name with an identification.
Because usually passport's not brought into.
No, it's usually not. It's usually not.
And the other question is, if a client has been working with a notary that's approved by the NNA, the National Notary Association, and has been a notary for a while, but not in your system for First American, are you guys okay with that?
We've been able to pass on things that are not approved through First American, because to be part of the First American approved vendor list for notaries, they have to have a certain amount of E&O insurance, they have to go through a background check, like they are very, very picky with who they approve, because we're insuring, right? If we're insuring, we want to make sure.
The NNA is very picky as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually, they're saying that if they have he can check off that person.
It depends, yeah.
Then maybe. he'll
Yeah,
be okay.
I have it. Yeah, I've had it done where we've approved of it, but I know that our office, or not just our office, but I know title companies are getting much more strict because of all the fraudulent activity that's been happening. So even if they go through the rigorous part of the NCC,
NNA.
NNA, it's still, First American still wants to make sure they have enough E&O insurance. So in case something happens, they have insurance backing them.
They don't give the field if you don't have all the requirements.
Yes.
Yeah, but how about the E&O insurance? Do they have?
Yeah,
200,000.
Yeah.
I think,
and the bond and everything, you cannot.
so I don't know exactly what's the criteria on that side, because I'm not the one approving them. All I know is that they have a rigorous process of approving the notaries. So I know there's a form that needs to fill out, and then they go through an interview process and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know exactly what's all the details that they look out for.
Makes sense.
Would we?
No, I mean like the First American, I don't know, huh?
Would we check in with you?
No, you wouldn't check it. Oh, you mean when one is done?
For instance, for a client that really wants a notary that they work with for purchasing
Yeah.
several homes, could we?
Check with us? Yeah. What you do is you can email to me. I'll send it to my guys, and then they'll say, yes, it's approved, or no, it's not approved, or, you know, then I'll ask, okay, if it's not approved, you know, how can we get them approved, or can we, you know, I have a good relationship of, like, you know, things can be done, but as a security protocol, we try to work with our approved list, because it's not so worrisome for everybody in the party. So that's one of the things that's a red flag. So this one file we were trying to post on Juneteenth. So it wasn't just about the notary. That was one thing. So not only was it that, but it was also a free and clear property. And free and clear properties are being targeted for fraud.
Yeah.
Like a lot, because it's free and clear. It's easy. I mean, how hard is it to forge a grant deed? Or a power of attorney? And the property's free and clear, so there's not that much work to be done to verify. Right? And so there's also this other fraud where clients call me, Angie, my client has a free and clear property, and they're getting emails saying, or letters in the mail saying that there's an insurance that they can buy to protect their house.
Oh,
There's no such insurance. I will tell you right now, it's all fraud. You're paying for nothing. What they'll give you is probably a property profile, and then they'll give you the deed, and then they fake like saying that you have insurance, but you don't, because there's no such insurance to protect against fraud. There is none. So when your clients see something like that in the mail, and they're targeting the free and clear, tell them it's fake. Or you can just send them to me and I'll tell you it's fake. And you can screenshot and send to your client, hey, this is fake, this is coming from title insurance company. So there's a lot of things that we look out for, because when the market is challenging, people get more creative. Let me share with you some statistics. I love statistics. Okay, so I did a little bit of research for you guys. Here. So listen carefully, this is really important. So 1 in 20 Americans who bought or sold a home in the last 3 years have been a victim of real estate fraud. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let me keep going. This is scary. 1 in 10 Americans are targeted for real estate fraud. Over 446.1 million in 2022, which now the number's higher, have been real estate fraud costs. That's how much it costed the victim. 446.1 million. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center received 9,521 real estate-based complaints in 2023. I'm not even talking about this year. That's last year. And the market's tougher, I think, this year than last year. Let me see, what's the other one? And then let me see. Real estate transactions are a prime target for fraudsters because of their complexity and high value. Criminals can exploit real estate transactions in a number of ways, including public records. Remember, I talked about grant deeds, notaries. Breaching broker and title agent systems. So that's when I talked about it in some of our office meetings, where escrow and title, we send emails back and forth for wire amounts, and they get intercepted. Remember, I told you guys about that? So it's gonna look and feel like I'm talking to you, but it really isn't, because somebody else now has hijacked your email system, and now they're looking like you. So that's part of that. Posing as someone involved in a transaction. So that's like the fake IDs that I told you about. Pretending to be Angie Tang with an ID that looks like Angie Tang's, but it's not. It's somebody else. Yeah.
About the email being intercepted, can a person's phone be intercepted
Yeah.
as well?
I'm sure it can now with AI.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things.
Even
too.
before AI, you can, it's called spoofing a phone, where you're essentially copying it, and then everything that goes on, they can monitor.
Like the voice, when a person is actually speaking, can they hear it? If there was being said over the phone? The reason I said it is because, my client right now that's in escrow, he created a password that I gave the escrow officer. And the time that I spoke to her, you know, we both recorded it. then I called the client, I said, I spoke to the escrow officer at this time, and she knows her password, so when he called to verify the escrow wiring instructions. He asked for the password, what's the password, and at what time did you speak to my real estate agent? So my question is, so to have that extra security, and then
That's
he
great.
verified the,
Yeah, smart.
he verified the banking information
Yeah.
to do the transfer, so to make sure it was okay, but my question is if they can monitor his phone, then they could know the password.
There's a fear right now that they can take 3 seconds of a conversation and then use AI to have a whole conversation. And this is something that,
I know.
so this is,
Scarier.
we were talking about fraud. This is going to be even more of a challenge going forward.
How do we know?
You don't.
You won't know.
That's the hard part. And this is, I don't know if you've heard about this, but this was being done with elder fraud, that they
Yeah.
were doing this and calling as if they were the grandchild saying, I'm in jail, I need you to send me money. My grandparents have had it happen multiple times and they were posing as me. I'm like, you knew that wasn't me. Like, clearly, there's a way that I talk to them that they wouldn't know. But again, they're taking things that they have figured out in other aspects of our lives and fraud, and now applying it to the largest transaction. And they're targeting elderly people who owns home.
Yeah.
Elderly people, right? So it's all a system, right? And it's all just being aware of it and understanding it for you as the agent is, you are like, in a lot of ways, the last line of defense for your clients, right? We're a part of the transaction, we're being vigilant, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So you are getting a lot of responsibility put on to your plates, but just know that the more that you understand this and the more that you're vigilant about it, the likelihood that this is going to happen for you is less and less. And the thing is if you're aware of it and you can identify it and stop it from happening, you're a rock star, right? That client's your client for life. So at the end of the day, it's just better to be aware of it and to be very vigilant, because if you do stop something like this, you got a client for life, right?
Another statistic, oh, I was gonna tell you before, I forgot. Okay, so the other thing too is, you know how you get a lot of calls, like spam calls, and especially you guys as realtors, you never know if it's spam or if it's a client,
That's
right? Because you guys are prospecting, just like me. So I'm always like, not sure if it's a realtor that's never used me and all of a sudden they're calling me,
Yep.
same thing, right? So when you answer the phone, try not to say anything first. Wait for them to talk first, because the moment you say, like for me, I do this all the time. Hi, this is Angie.
Yeah.
Right? Or hi, this is Rissa. Hi, this is, they're already recording your voice. And AI can use that to make it sound like you calling somebody else. So that's why when I have to, it's hard for me too. So now when I get calls, I'm like listening, and then usually nobody says anything, they hang up.
Right.
You know, but that's what you guys should do. No, that's why I hang up. I don't bother saying anything. Yeah.
Not even high.
Because as soon as you start talking, that triggers their
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why I don't say anything. I wait until they
it's
say,
really
something
difficult.
it's so hard because we're so used to like, you know, personable. Hi, this is da-da-da. And now I'm like, request. And if they don't say anything, they hang up, then more than likely it's probably a spam call, right? So that's another thing. Uh-huh.
So when you represent seller, of course, we choose you, Brandon, for all the best service company. But when you represent the buyer,
Yeah,
so it's happened to me too, just in case. So I write you and write him.
yeah.
So finally, yeah, you only choose one. So
Yeah.
he choose Tim, title give someone else.
Yeah,
So
usually.
WMG was taking my title. I just thinking, I'm gonna use this company. My buyer was used. That's a good one or bad one?
So you,
But at least he take one from you, so I might offer, so I write
Yeah.
both of you guys, but.
yeah,
Home, actually, the home too, 3 of them, they choose one, because seller pay everything.
yeah,
So at least they give me a Brandon for me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna choose one and give it to me one. So I was concerned, these other title company I've never used before, it's a little concern for my buyer.
yeah, I would be concerned.
So
So
what do you need to do? What solution should?
I'll tell you what I did,
Okay,
because I bought a house, right?
okay,
So what I did is because I know the power of title insurance,
Mhm.
because I'm in it, I see day to day for 20 some years, I know it.
Mhm.
I told the listing agent,
Mhm.
I'm gonna pick my own title insurance company,
Mhm.
I'm gonna pay for it.
Okay, I told my buyer to pay. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so that way, the seller is not paying for it, so why should he choose? Why should he care? He doesn't care, right?
Mhm.
I'm paying for it.
How about I pay you extra difference? So you choose this company, how much it costs, and then I'll choose back if a different price, I pay for it, so I will choose mine. Is that's okay too?
You could, but then now you're negotiating pricing, which
Yeah.
can also be a compliance issue with Department of Insurance.
Okay.
So for me, I just didn't want the headache and I wanted the security. So I told the listing agent, I said, hey, I'm just gonna pick my own title insurance.
But
And I
to
say-
you buy your own home, I would convince my
Yeah.
buyer to use you
Yeah,
because of
then you
this.
explain to them why is it so important to pick title insurance? I have a ton of different things on why to choose First American. Like one of the things you can show, no, seriously, this is why I chose to work for this company.
Mm.
I had choices,
Mhm, yeah, I
but
know.
I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to work for this company because I know the strengths.
Best,
It's
yeah.
the best. Like the numbers, you know, the numbers I just went through, we have a flyer on all the numbers. You can say, hey, this is why I choose this company because they're the best. And we're not even the most expensive, being the top title company.
Mhm.
There's only like top title companies.
Gotcha.
Of the top five title companies, we're actually the cheapest.
How much cost for the house for title?
Depends on the sales price.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all depending on sales price. And all of our
Let's see,
fees,
1.5 million.
1.5, let me look, I can pull it up.
It's a town home. I will not,
We only look at the amount, because the amount is what we're
I
insuring.
don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Let me look for my rate book. I don't know, rates keep
I know.
changing. Rate book.
18 or constant.
I think it's,
80,
Okay,
okay,
so
so 1.5?
1.5.
1.5,
Exact
think
amount you
it's
want to
like-
tell you, we negotiate it down to 1,330.
1,500.
1,368.
Oh, 3,000.
Exact amount.
3,000.
1,368.
1,368.
We're gonna negotiate from 1.5 to 1,368.
1,368,
So I.
3,265. 3,265.
3,265. 65, okay, 3,265, okay, I'll tell my buyer because I already reduced the price from 1.5 together, 1,368. So even the order, they already ordered, ordered the by title, if you don't like, it, they can return back or have to, before escrow storage.
You can still negotiate, but I don't know, you have to talk to the listing agent, see if they'll accept it or not, because it's all part of the contract that you guys signed.
But we accept the Brian, so I'm
Yeah,
okay with it.
so
It's
double
fine.
check, yeah.
You said you have to be smart, right? All the first one, on each corner, they don't like it, they will change it back.
Yeah.
That's just fine, at least I always do for that,
Yeah,
for my listing, I have no problem. She
yeah,
told me
for your
that.
listing is, yeah,
Easier.
yeah,
that's
but as a
no
buyer is tougher, like
Yeah.
for me, one of us, everybody was a buyer at one point, right?
problem. Mhm.
So.
That would be my seller next time, they won't be stay too long.
Yeah.
So, it's more than just 3 million, so when they get more money.
Yeah.
So, that would be sell anytime.
I'll check in with you on the call after the
Mhm.
training, but
Yeah.
going back to, if somebody calls us,
Yeah.
and they may be a fraudulent person or
Yeah.
something. Can they record if I say hello without my name, hello, just hello,
They
can they
can.
record my voice and use it to?
They can. I mean,
With that voice, like,
I'm sure they can with AI, like
That's too
technology is
smart.
getting so
That's too
crazy.
smart.
yeah,
It's like all these.
it's
robots.
so hard to
Yeah.
know, like, that's the problem, is like, at this point, this is something that the FBI is saying, this is what that they're putting out, this information. They're saying this is something that could happen. There's no guarantee that it
Yeah,
can't,
no
that it
guarantee.
will, but it's,
We are.
There's something out there where if they record your voice, they can use that voice, like replicate your voice.
Yeah,
create a
they
voice.
have.
so they take 3 seconds and then they're able to feed that into like the AI to where it'll give you a whole conversation, a whole,
My voice.
yeah. So they take 3 seconds for a minute long
Horrible.
Don't
speech.
answer it now.
I know, don't answer.
I'm not gonna-
It's okay.
It's the same thing with the deep fakes with the videos, they're saying, with the political stuff, that they're able to put someone else's face.
Well, you guys all
On-
heard about,
yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
Remember that whole thing on the news about Taylor Swift? They used her face and put somebody else's body, a
Yeah,
naked body,
yeah,
and they had to take it down.
right.
But this is Taylor Swift. I mean, can you think all of us? I mean, they could do that to
Well,
anybody.
the kids in
Not that
high,
they would.
the kids in middle school in Beverly Hills, they did that with their classmates.
Yeah,
They were using
Wow.
their bodies and just putting different faces and they
Yeah.
were posting it all
Yeah.
that. With the AI.
I was gonna say that one thing I always suggest when I sell a home, to my clients right away, I ask them to get on the do not solicit
Yeah.
registry,
Yeah.
which is the government.
Yeah. The
No.
DNC.
It takes like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
and that will take care of a lot of calls they're gonna be getting from potential,
Yeah.
solicitors, families.
In person, yeah. So one of the things too, I don't know if all you guys know, but I have a 4-year-old. And they're now saying, I read this on the news, they're taking the little kids' social security numbers and impersonating them and when they get older to use their credit.
Wow.
And all they have to do is they take a picture from social media, even if my daughter's 4. Even if she's 4, they take a picture of her and they age her.
Wow.
And that's why if you look at my Facebook, I have very, very little pictures of her. Not only do they take her identity, but then what if you get some crazy person that like wants to kidnap or something, right? And do ransom,
Right.
because social media, there's no police for social media. And anybody's open to it because it's all
we,
open.
we
right?
provide it willingly.
Yeah. And like videos, when you post the videos,
Uh,
where do you think they're gonna get your voice?
Yep. They'll get
The
audio
videos that you-
and the video, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why it's super, super crazy. So the whole point of having this topic about fraud is to be aware. So once you hear it once, at least you've heard it and now you're much more diligent about, looking for these red flags. Without understanding or hearing it, hey, you're in bliss. Everything's great. You know nothing, right? It's great. But when something happens, you wish you would know something about it. So some of the red flags that we went over, like fraudulent IDs, right, for notaries, notary fraud. Then we have like, impersonation fraud, right? Then we have, what else are we talking about? Oh, free and clear property. So if you're taking a listing and it's
right.
free and clear, let us know right away.
Scary.
It's scary. Because how do you know if that person saying they're selling it is really the right person? They could have just made a grand deed. Power of attorneys are also red flag.
Yep.
So when you're getting these listings, you hear these words, check in with title, because we have to make sure that when we close it, we're on the hook too, not only us, but you guys, and let us do the work to clear it for you guys, so there's not so much damage control, right?
Thank you.
If there's a large cash withdrawal from an equity, right? If somebody impersonates and does a HELOC and takes out all the cash or a cash out refi, that's another problem that you guys have to think about. Oh, this is a big one. Uninsured deeds. You guys get asked this question all the time. Hey, Angie, I need to, take, I'm gonna take off my wife off title. I'm just gonna keep it on myself. Then you
Yeah,
ask the
amen.
question, exactly. How do you know that the wife wants to get off title? You can't just deed it off. You can't just forge the document. Like, you have to keep, like, why would somebody gift such a big property, like such a huge amount to taking the ex-wife off, putting some other random person on? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Do you remember back in the recession? Everybody was starting to foreclose on their properties and people were saying, these attorneys were saying, stop foreclosure. And they deeded off to 20 different people. Well, guess what?
How does that work?
You just deed it. Anybody can deed it.
Mm-hmm.
They did quick claim deeds left and right to try to so they don't default on their property, so the banks couldn't find them because they keep changing the name. But guess what happened to the homeowner? Not only did he didn't get foreclosed, but he got tricked, he got scammed. He just gave title away of his house to try to pretend not to foreclose. But instead
He
of
gave
foreclosing,
away,
he
he
just
gave away
gave
the
it
whole
away.
house, yeah.
And then the poor guy who's living there now says he wants to sell, or, then now things are better. Well, you treasured 20 different people. Now guess what he has to do?
I know.
How is he gonna find those 20 people?
If you cannot find them,
Cannot.
sell.
You cannot sell. You have to go to court.
You cannot sell the house, it's not on your name.
Not on your name, exactly. Yeah,
And then the cost of the house, you're gonna
Yeah,
pay more for the attorneys than more for the house,
That's
the
true.
value of the
Yeah.
house.
so when something seems too good to be true, it probably is, okay?
There's
Don't fall for this, unicorn thing. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as easy, right? No such thing. So when you're talking to clients and say they keep telling you, oh, I want to take off title and put this title and change title here. Every single time you change title, you have a potential risk. Not only do they get reassessed, they get a potential risk. And if you want to sell later on and they transfer title, they have to find that other person to fill out the form again to make sure that they knew what they were doing.
And title insurance doesn't go with the new person, right? It's only with the.
Good point, I was gonna talk about that. Yeah, nope, it doesn't. It's just like pink slip on a car. If you write your pink slip off to somebody else, well, guess what?
Their car.
That's not your car anymore, just like title insurance. You just wrote off your house, their insurance doesn't go with the house, it goes with the individual that owns the house. We are protecting the individual that owns the house. Now, the only thing is if you put it from Angie to Angie Tang Trust, it's still an Angie Tang, it's just now in an Angie Tang Trust. But the county is gonna request for extra documentation just to make sure it's the same people.
Okay, so it does go with trust?
It goes with trust and LLCs as long as the individual is still the same.
How the buyer was, use of power of attorney to buy the property. The buyer cannot assign documents from other country. Your bank, how do you?
Can you say that again?
title, yeah, well, you use your title, a buyer just buy the property, use your title,
Mhm.
and then the buyer, the one to be on the North Campus of the country,
Uh-huh.
so they hire a power attorney. So what type of power attorney you want it from, her relatives or her best friend? What you have title will pass,
Title will look at the reason why they're using the power of attorney, one.
is people are in the Australia, it's not here.
Okay, then
That's real.
we would ask for also a letter explaining like why they're doing this, how using the power of attorney. The power of attorney has to be within 1 year usually.
So where you can get power attorney, that's not one tips. Do your company provide power attorney, the buyer willing to pay?
We are willing, not like insurance for power of attorney. So once we insure it, we're ensuring that power of attorney was effective.
So do you have as
part of it.
your company, because we're gonna use your title,
Uh-huh.
I want your referrals, which power attorney, which lawyer you can use, so you trust. They wrote power attorney for the people to.
To validate that power of
Yeah, use
attorney?
your title. I'm
Well,
gonna
once
call
we-
my buyer right now to use your title.
Yeah, I can call my office and get you referrals. Like there's one guy that can do the power of attorneys that I
Then you
know.
guys can.
Yeah.
Get title for my buyer, okay, all right,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
We can
thank
make
you.
sure that, because it's also,
Yeah.
once we insure it, we want to make sure that power of attorney is valid.
Yeah.
If that power of attorney is not valid, we're not gonna close,
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
because that's
That
a
was a done
huge
deal,
thing,
Okay.
huge
especially
thing.
they're in Australia.
We have two
They
online
have
questions, we
issues.
go to her
Oh,
first, yeah.
okay.
Just really, for clarification, if a person puts their home in a living trust,
Uh-huh.
does it have to have the name like Angie Tang? Living
No,
Trust?
you don't.
No?
So when I did my trust, I didn't put Angie Tang Trust. I made it a different name, but the county will look at who the trustees of the trust is.
Oh,
So you're gonna have to, well, whoever does this, when your clients ask you to do this, make sure you tell them, hey, the county's gonna reach out to you. Make sure you send them that form that they're gonna ask for because they need to validate it. If you don't send it to the county, they're gonna reassess you.
Yeah.
And to revert back is a pain in the rear because they want to collect money.
Yep.
They're gonna take forever before they even want to revert back.
what is the form they ask for?
They usually just ask you to email them or send them or fax them a copy of the form that shows the trustees of the trust or the beneficiaries. It's usually like the first couple pages of the trust. Don't send them the whole trust because privacy information. The other thing is, now that we're talking about trust, if I had a client ask me yesterday, oh, my husband passed away and the property's in a trust, but I can't find a trust. Can you get me the trust?
Yeah.
I can't. We don't have trust.
No.
What's the solution?
They have to go back to
Lawyer.
Yep.
lawyer or find it in their house. They're sure they have a copy of it.
Yeah.
But we
What
don't
about
carry the trust for
Lawyer,
security.
if the lawyer retired.
Then you are in big trouble.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to find it.
Ah.
Yeah, so if you have a trust, this is something you should talk to your clients about. Make sure they know who they're gonna give the trust to or where the trust documents are. Because if that lawyer has passed away, good luck.
Put the
They're
bank
not in the
safe,
county,
please.
they're not- they're not
Yeah.
in
Buy
the
a bank
county.
safe.
Yeah,
put
put
there.
all that safe.
Which is a great point, so if the lawyer passes away, then there should be something else, right? Do they go to court to get? Or is
They're
there
gonna have
be
to,
something?
yeah, they're gonna have to, well, see, if you don't have a trust, you probably have to go probate because nobody knows who is the surviving spouse
Yeah.
to take over the property.
Except your property has registered with the county.
Yeah.
To prove that when you have a property tax, and you know that, it says the trust
Mhm.
on the property tax
Yeah.
bills. No, on the tax bills,
The name
not your
will be
name,
on
it's
it.
trust, the
It'll say
name.
trust.
Right,
That's easy.
but wouldn't the county already have the trustee, so if they
You
need the
just pay the
trust?
fee,
then-
pay the
Yeah.
fee, and it's time to give it to you.
Yeah, but you won't have the whole copy of the trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, you only have a few pages. just
Yeah,
as
you
that.
only have like the grant deed. And some, and the grant deed will have the
It's the
trustees on the
name, the
trust,
name,
on the
yeah,
trust.
that's it.
but you won't know like the particulars of each property. So every trust is done differently. So when you have a trust, maybe I should have a trust guy come talk to us. But when we have a trust done, yeah, okay. When you want, when we have a trust done, each trust is specific to each individual who creates a trust. So my trust, so I got a trust. So, because I have a daughter.
Yeah.
So I made sure that if my daughter turns into a drug addict, she's not getting anything, like zero. So this is why it's so
Yeah.
specific to each individual because
So the top
each
law.
per- We're in tough mom.
Reserve money, go to the hospital, save her back.
I need to make sure she stays on the right path. I don't want her to use the money to keep doing drugs. Not that she's doing drugs, she's only 4,
Yeah,
but
but,
I have to think about the future.
yeah.
So I put that in my trust because in the event that something happens to me now or later, it's all written out for her.
Yeah, it's good.
So that's why when you guys talk to your clients, you need to, we won't have a copy of the trust, you need to ask them, to keep it safe. So, anyway, sorry, we kind of went on tangent.
Real quick, do
Yeah.
the online ones. Mary had 2 questions. So her mother-in-law is deceased and her home is for sale, getting mail delivered to the house for another person with her address. Could this be fraud?
It could be,
Could be.
if somebody is trying to impersonate the homeowner,
Right.
it could be fraud. What you do is, actually, you could text me the address. I'll take a look if there's been any deeds that've been, added recently. Then we can find out if, they're trying to impersonate by looking at deeds. If they haven't recorded anything, then you don't have to worry too much. So the other thing is, because fraud is so high,
Credit, right?
Huh?
Like a credit,
oh, we just want the
Report.
deeds.
but, credit report on her mom, because
Mhm.
somebody could be taking.
Oh, yeah.
loans on her mom's
Correct.
name.
That's
Yeah.
True, yeah, because that's another fraud thing. What they're doing is everybody, it's terrible.
I know.
People that have passed away, they're impersonating like they didn't pass away. And they're using their credit to impersonate the person that's passed away. So there's so many different ways the
They're
crooks.
creative.
Yeah, they're super creative. Like it's like we have to, it's hard for us to think ahead because this is not the way our brains work because we're not crooks. So when you hear these stories, it's so that you can remember that these things can happen. So you might want to check their credit and make sure that they're not being impersonated. And then text me the address. I can check the chain of title, see if anything's recorded. Now, because fraud is so high, the county now is sending out, they used to only send out letters to the homeowners to see if any, like if they're going to refinance or selling the property, they'll send a letter to the homeowner saying, hey, are you trying to sell a house? Are you trying to refinance, blah, blah, blah. So if they don't, they usually call the county. And what we do too, because we're such a big company, we get hit all the time with all the fraudsters. We also, whenever we find like a high profile type of property that could be targeted, we send out a letter from First American saying, hey, your property is in escrow right now. Is this something you did? And we have caught so many people. And we cancel the title and we notify the other title companies that, hey, they're not trying to sell. They just called us and told us they're not trying to sell. So somebody's trying to impersonate them. This happens like on like a weekly basis, we get these type of cancellations. Yeah.
So when you suggest to check the person's credit, that mother-in-law's deceased though, is that possible to check the credit?
Yeah, you just need a social and, yeah, but
Yeah.
we don't do credit checks.
Yeah.
But you can ask them,
Deceased already?
yeah, you just use a social.
Because a lot of
Are you
companies,
saying that any-
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. FICO and Equifax, and
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Keep those records.
Yeah,
Who
you
has
can
legal authority to do that? Because are you saying like anyone? can run
If
they
the
have
child,
a-
if the child
No.
was in charge, they
Yeah.
can run the credit to make
Yeah.
sure. That happened to my mom because we kept on getting mail
Mhm.
after she passed away, so we checked the records
Mhm.
just to make sure her credit was.
Yeah.
was
Just couldn't make sure it wasn't affected. So what I've done, so I've been at a fraud before somebody took my identity, so I lock my file,
Mhm.
my credit,
Yeah,
so that,
You freeze it.
yeah, I freeze
Yeah.
it. So when people are trying to like run my credit, they can't, because I froze my account. So I pay like Equifax like $10.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, you know,
It's your-
I mean,
Which
It's a big thing.
company, Equifax?
Equifax, I have it, I use Equifax, but there's different ones, there's like LifeLock, there's all these
The
different
LifeLock
ones.
is good.
Yeah,
Yep.
so whatever it is, you can just,
Experience,
you know,
Yep.
lock it so that people can't run your credit.
Mhm.
But then you have to remember to open the credit when
Yep.
you wanna
Yeah, buy anything.
refinance or get
Yeah.
a new credit
But
card.
you get an alert that says
Yeah.
somebody's trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
run the credit, is this you or not?
Yeah.
That's when you prove it.
And those services like, where they're monitoring it, the monitoring services.
LifeLock.
Yeah, and that's, at the end of the day, this is all you can do. Like, this is, and I like nerd out on this stuff. I really like this stuff. Like, the FBI talks about this all the time. It's just being diligent, right? The rings, those are vulnerable. The cameras, those are vulnerable, right? And so what are you doing in making it? It's by adding steps and layers for the fraudsters to have to go over, less likely they're gonna do anything. Because they're looking for the easy targets where they can get away with it quickly and not have any possible way of getting caught. And the more things you put in their way, just like, think about when you lock your car, right? If you leave your car unlocked, someone can just walk by and open it and then steal stuff. But if you put an alarm on it, and that system's then set up with like OnStar, has like 3 systems, like the cops are gonna get cut, they don't wanna touch that car, right? They want the easy car that's unlocked or the car that doesn't have the,
That makes sense.
and this is another thing with home invasion. So we literally were with a client yesterday and he talked about it. Both his neighbors got robbed. He has all the cameras at his house. Why do you think he didn't get robbed? He had all the cameras. They don't want to get caught, right? So they're gonna go to the house with no cameras. So that's the whole thing when it comes to this fraud. The more that you as the agent are aware of it and the roadblocks that are in their way, they're less likely to do that, right?
Oh, we have another question?
Yeah, oh, that was the second question she had. What is the safest way to get the buyer's funds to the seller without
Oh.
becoming victim of fraud? Can funds be submitted in a different way? And you had a great suggestion with that, with the passwords and having a specific one. But obviously, do you have others? Yeah, escrow, exactly.
So let me read you a statistic. According to the FBI, 26,942 cases of wire fraud related to real estate were reported in 2021. In 2021, this is 3 years ago. That
Yeah.
number is probably 3 times the amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
crazy now. So what you do is you can always go back to basics, go to the bank, get a cashier's check like we
Yep.
used to, walk it over to the escrow.
Yeah,
That's what we used to do.
Yep.
exactly.
You know, or you can do wire, but when you're doing wire, like add passwords,
Go to the
make
bank,
sure.
go to the
Yep.
wire.
Yeah.
Call
So,
escrow, say, is this the number? Can we,
Double check
do we
it,
need to,
because-
right?
a lot of
From the
times,
bank, I asked my friend, when you go to the bank, call the escrow, verify.
Very,
Yeah.
yep.
because once that, so a lot of people
That
think
money's
that,
gone.
but you know, once that money is gone, it's gone. There's no title insurance part of that. The money's gone. I've had clients have that happen.
Yeah.
And nobody wins. The buyer's out like, you know, 250, 500,000 or whatever the
Could be $1
amount
million.
is, $1 million. You guys don't get a close. I don't get a close. The poor guy's sitting there with his hands empty of money, nothing, you know,
How's my money?
nothing, no money.
And even if, we intercept, that fraudulent wire, the funds don't go into the person's bank account right away because the FBI investigates
Yep.
now. And so now they don't have the deposit to buy the house, everything
Nothing.
goes downhill.
No, I mean.
And
they-
everything
yeah,
stops.
Everything stops.
Right.
So, you know, the most important thing is to be communicating for us too with First American. When we have a wire that we have to send out, it goes to 2 different systems at our office to make sure that the numbers are correct. And we've actually caught so many times numbers being changed at First American. So it's crazy. And you know, when it gets really busy, it's hard to make sure you got every little digit. You know, like a 9 could be like a 6 and you know, you're so busy looking, you don't realize it. So for us, at least there's 2 sets of eyes, and then a third set would be usually the escrow. So we can all make sure that, you know, we're doing it diligently. And every so often, First American will send out videos about wire fraud, explaining to the clients about wire fraud. Let me read you another statistic, and this is actually important too. I do love it. Because they don't lie, you know, it's from NAR, it's from NAR. So 60% of consumers surveyed by the certified reported receiving little to no education on the risks from their agent, title agency, or attorney about fraud.
Yeah.
So if they're not notified about being educated about this stuff, it's gonna happen to them. It could. They won't even realize it. That's why it's important that you guys are the front line. I'm here to educate you because I'm on the backside. I see it. Then I send it to you guys, and you guys have to do your part and educate your clients.
Since you're talking about statistics, I wanted to add this, with my loan officer who's working with a very reputable company. He told me a statistic. He said, only about 12% of everyone who's applying for a loan is getting approved. So if we already
Wow.
have, which is very
12% is very little.
very little. So if we already have an approved buyer, might as well go the extra mile, you know, to make sure that.
To find it. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Let's see.
Also, I heard somewhere that if you're showing a house and there's an Alexa system, watch out to what you said,
Oh, yeah.
how it is set, because that Alexa is
Right.
recording everything. that you
Everything.
mention.
Okay, so,
So when you are walking in the house with your client, yes, be careful.
Yeah.
Don't try to say as minimal as you can
Yeah.
about the house, about the owner, or
About
anything
anything.
else that might not pertain to the sale.
yeah. So what we've done on First American is we have a little tent card that says, hey, we're recording at this house. There's a recording service device in this house, so that you guys don't get caught in litigation, because you don't want to be sued by not telling people that there's an Alexa or a Google or whatever. So we have like little tent cards. So when you guys get your listings, we send you a listing kit. In the listing kit, you'll find little tent cards to like make sure everything is being, you know, told to to your clients that are coming through.
We're just talking and her phone is recording us. She's on text message, and the text
Oh.
message.
You are saying something about it.
Oh, because you said Alexa.
Yeah.
It's recording.
Yeah.
So I am, that happens to a lot of agents that they were not aware to. So.
Yeah, it's bad.
One more question for
Uh-huh.
Mary. Can you explain where the buyer's funds travel to title, escrow, and when purchasing a property? So I guess the chain of title or the chain of the
Where the money
funds.
goes?
Yeah, what's the?
So usually it goes into escrow. So escrow holds the funds to then release it to us to then do the payoffs. So usually it gets, so wire fraud can happen from the clients sending it to escrow, or escrow sending to us, or the client sends directly to title. So all those different ways, wherever there's a wire, it can cause fraud. That's the easiest way to sum it up. Okay, so now some tips. Okay, this is how I'm gonna end the thing about the tips. So have a face-to-face conversation with your client. Let them know about all these things that I've taught you
Yeah.
about. Be heightened alert and listen into all these things like, I have a free and clear, I have a power of attorney. You know, I don't know, like notary, all those things. You have to think about all those things. So have those conversations with the clients. See if there's a risk management tool from your brokerage. So see if there's one here. I'm sure there's something.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, that has like a wire fraud disclosure form, right? That way you guys protect yourself from litigation. This is from NAR, by the way. And then the other one is, adopt a greater security precautions to safeguard your transactions. And then if you check out NAR, they have a cybersecurity checklist that you can download and use that as your cybersecurity checklist. So those are the 3 tips from NAR. And from us, it's the same thing, like pick wide, large title companies. Like, I can't even tell you how difficult it is if something happens, you know, like, it's always a risk,
Yeah.
right? You hope that it's not gonna happen to you, but if it happens to you, you better hope that company is there to back you up.
Yeah, and they're not gonna settle and
Yeah.
then leave the rest on you.
Yeah.
That's it, guys.
Cool.
You guys,
Thank you, I love the pizza.
I know, I love.
Thank you, Mary, for all the great questions online as well.
Okay.